I'm 22 now, but this happened when I was 17. I didn't know that one broken tooth would eventually crack my entire life wide open. It started on a Friday night. I was biking home from my part-time job at a local pizza place when I hit a pothole, flipped over the handlebars, and face-planted into the pavement. It wasn't bad enough to go to the ER, but I chipped one of my front teeth. I was panicking because prom was only a couple of weeks away, and now I looked like a jack-o'-lantern. My mom was surprisingly calm when I got home, said we'd get it fixed the next morning, and tucked me into bed with an ice pack and some pain meds. The next morning, she said we'd be going to a dental clinic that a friend from work had recommended, on the other side of town. I didn't question it much, just figured it was one of those discount places where she could negotiate a deal. Money was always tight in our house. The clinic was a little place tucked behind a grocery store. Looked normal enough. The receptionist was an older woman with too much perfume and a too tight ponytail. But she kept giving my mom this weird look, like she recognized her. My mom didn't seem to notice, or maybe she was pretending not to. The dentist came in, introduced himself as Dr. Reeves, and froze when he saw me. And I mean froze. Not like a normal pause or a startled flinch. He stared at me like he'd seen a ghost. His eyes went wide, and for a second, I thought I had blood all over my face or something. But no, it was something else. Something deeper. He composed himself, did the procedure, and we left. But that look stuck with me all day. Like I reminded him of someone. That night, I told my best friend about it. She half-joked that maybe I looked like his long-lost kid or something. I laughed, but the second she said it, my stomach flipped. Because in that moment, I realized something had been bothering me for a long time. Everyone in my family is blonde. Like, super blonde. My mom, my younger brother, even our dog. Me? Dark hair, dark eyes, slightly olive-toned skin. I used to think I just took after some distant ancestor. My mom always said I had my grandfather's coloring. But the more I looked in the mirror that night, the more I wondered if that was really true. Or if I was just seeing what I wanted to believe. That weekend, I couldn't stop thinking about the way Dr. Reeves looked at me. So I did something I've never done before. I stalked him online. It didn't take long, his clinic had a basic website, and I found his Facebook through that. What I didn't expect was to find pictures of a girl about my age, who looked exactly like me. Same bone structure. Same crooked smile. Even the same dimple on her left cheek. Her name was Bella Reeves, and she lived 2 streets away from my house. I thought it had to be a coincidence. Maybe I just wanted it to be. But I couldn't deny how familiar her face looked. I stared at that profile for almost an hour, clicking through every photo, reading every comment, piecing things together. One photo, her birthday party, had her surrounded by friends, holding up a cake. In the background, standing near the counter, was Dr. Reeves and my mom. That was the moment everything inside me shattered. I stared at that birthday photo like it was some kind of hallucination. My mom, standing in the background, holding a soda can, wearing the exact green sweater she wore last year during my birthday dinner. There was no mistaking it. It was her. Same hair, same half-smile, same posture she always had when she was trying not to seem awkward. She wasn't a background extra. She belonged in that photo. Like she'd been there before. Like she'd done this before. I kept thinking, maybe she was just there as a guest. Maybe she got dragged along by someone else. Maybe she had no idea who Bella was. But that theory died fast. Because I kept scrolling. Photo after photo, and my mom kept showing up. Not always in the front, not always smiling, but always there. One picture had her and Dr. Reeves sitting side by side at a school fundraiser. Another showed her hugging Bella. Hugging her. Like a mom hugs her daughter. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying every family moment in my head, holidays, birthdays, vacations, trying to spot something off. Some clue that my entire life wasn't what it seemed. And the more I thought about it, the more things started falling into place. Like how mom always worked late on Wednesdays, and how I once caught her crying in the laundry room with her phone clutched to her chest, or the time she yelled at me for snooping through her emails, even though I hadn't actually opened anything. I just saw a name I didn't recognize. R. I always assumed she was just stressed or private. But now, it felt like something else entirely. So the next morning, I printed that birthday photo. I folded it into quarters and stuffed it in my hoodie pocket. Then I waited. That Sunday afternoon, when my little brother was at a sleepover and it was just me and her at home, I walked into the kitchen and placed the photo on the counter without saying a word. She froze. One glance at that folded paper and I saw her whole body tense. She didn't even open it. She knew what it was. Still, she didn't say anything. Just kept staring at it like it was a live grenade and she was waiting to see if I'd pull the pin. Finally, I asked, "Is there something you want to tell me?" She didn't answer. So I asked again. And that's when she looked at me with tears already forming and whispered something I'll never forget. "There are some things you're better off not knowing." I wanted to scream. But I didn't. I just walked away. Because I already knew the truth. My mom had another family. And she'd been living both lives for years. After that conversation, if you could even call it a conversation, I didn't speak to her for the rest of the night. She tried knocking on my door once, but I stayed quiet. And she didn't push. She just walked away. But I couldn't let it go. Not after seeing those pictures. Not after hearing that sentence. I had to know what else she was hiding. So the next day after school, instead of heading home, I took a detour. I walked 2 blocks over, toward the street where Bella Reeves supposedly lived. I didn't have an exact address, but I remembered seeing the exterior of her house in a few of her photos. A white fence. Red shutters. A blue mailbox with cartoon stickers on the side. It wasn't hard to find. The house looked warm and lived in. Cozy. Like the kind of place where you'd spend lazy Sundays baking cookies and playing board games. Not the kind of place you'd expect to be the center of a secret. There was a silver SUV in the driveway, the same one Dr. Reeves drove when I saw him at the clinic. And behind the front window, I saw her. Bella. She was sitting at the kitchen table, laughing with someone I couldn't quite see. But the laugh, it was familiar. Too familiar. It was my mom's laugh. I stepped back so I wouldn't be seen. I felt like I was trespassing on someone else's life, even though it was mine too, in a way I was just starting to understand. That's when the door opened. And he walked out. Dr. Reeves. He had a jacket slung over his shoulder and was talking on his phone. He didn't see me at first, but I couldn't move. My legs just locked. My breath caught. Then his eyes met mine. And for the second time in a week, he froze. This time, though, he didn't look shocked. He looked guilty. We stared at each other for maybe 2 seconds, just long enough for him to hang up the phone and start walking toward me. But I turned and bolted before he could say anything. I didn't stop running until I got home. When I burst through the door, my mom was at the sink washing dishes, like everything was normal. Like her real life hadn't just been exposed down the street. I didn't say anything to her. Just went upstairs and locked my door. My phone buzzed an hour later. Unknown number. One message. "I think we need to talk. Please, Dr. R." I blocked the number without responding. Because I didn't want his explanation. I wanted hers. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my mom hugging Bella. I heard her laugh echoing from that kitchen, in their house, 2 streets away from ours. I was torn between rage and heartbreak, and somewhere in the middle of that spiral, I realized something. This wasn't just about what she did. It was about how long she'd kept it from me. And suddenly, I started questioning everything. I knew I wouldn't get the truth from her easily, so I went digging. I waited until she left for work Monday morning, then went into her bedroom. I'd never snooped in her things before. Never wanted to. But now? Now it felt necessary. Her closet was filled with the usual: jackets, shoes, old handbags. But behind a row of boots, I found a dusty old box. It was labeled in her handwriting, one I knew by heart, just one word. Sundays. That word hit me harder than I expected. Growing up, Sundays had always been weird. My mom would leave early in the morning, always saying she had volunteer work at the community center. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? But now I wondered if those Sundays had belonged to someone else. I opened the box. Inside were cards. Letters. Drawings. Dozens of them. I picked up the first one. It was a crayon drawing of a family. A little girl, a man, and a woman with long brown hair, and MOM written above her head. The signature at the bottom? Bella, age 5. Some were birthday cards, to the best mom in the world. Others were photos, printed ones, like people used to take before smartphones, of Bella growing up. Halloween costumes, piano recitals, school trips. And in almost all of them, my mom was there. Smiling. Holding hands. Blowing out candles with a little girl I'd never met. I started shaking. This wasn't a side affair. This wasn't some secret fling. This was a second life. One card stood out. A folded piece of red paper with glittery stickers on the front. It was dated just 6 months ago. Inside, in a neat, teen girl handwriting, was this: "I'm so happy we get our Sundays together again. I wish we had more time like this. Love you, always." And right beneath that? A post-it note in my mom's handwriting. "One more year, and it'll all come together." I didn't even know what that meant. But it felt like a punch to the gut. I put everything back exactly as I found it, closed the closet, sat on the edge of her bed, and waited. Because that night, when she came home, she was finally going to tell me the truth. She came home just before 6, like always, dropped her keys in the dish by the door, toed off her shoes, and called up the stairs asking if I wanted takeout. Like nothing was wrong. Like we were still the version of ourselves from last week, when I thought I knew who my mother was. I came downstairs and sat at the kitchen table, holding the red card from the Sunday's box. I didn't say anything. I just placed it on the table in front of her. She froze. Her fingers stopped mid-motion on her phone. Her eyes locked on the card. She didn't reach for it, just stared. When she finally looked at me, her whole face changed. Her mouth opened like she had something ready to say, but whatever it was, she didn't use it. Instead, she sank slowly into the chair across from me, like her body had just given up. She whispered, "How much do you know?" I said enough. And I meant it. Then she did something I wasn't expecting. She didn't deny it. She didn't spin it. She just started talking. Like she'd been waiting years for the moment to unload everything she'd locked away. She told me about Dr. Reeves. That they had dated before she met my dad. That things had been serious, but not right. When she got pregnant with me, she said she panicked. She told Dr. Reeves she wasn't ready to raise a child together and disappeared, moved back to her hometown and cut ties. But then, years later, after she married my dad and had my little brother, she ran into him again. It wasn't planned, she said. But they talked. He was married now, with a daughter, Bella. And that's when it got murky. My mom swore they didn't restart anything right away. But eventually, they reconnected. She used words like rekindled and healing old wounds, but none of it made sense to me. It sounded more like an excuse than a confession. I asked the obvious question, why Bella? Why was she in her life? That's when she dropped it. Bella was my half-sister. I remember just blinking at her, like the sentence didn't compute. She said Dr. Reeves had lied to her for years, that he'd had Bella with someone else after she left him. But when she came back into his life, they realized something, twisted. He'd named Bella after a name my mom once said she wanted to give a daughter. They took it as a sign. I took it as something else entirely. Eventually, his wife found out. They divorced. And somehow, my mom ended up becoming a regular part of Bella's life. She told me she didn't want to hurt anyone. That she'd planned to tell me when the time was right. That she was just waiting for the pieces to settle. That's what the post-it meant. One more year and she would have told me. Because Bella was about to go to college. Because things would be less complicated. But she didn't look sorry. She looked tired. Like this secret had aged her. I asked her one thing before I left the table. Was I ever enough? She said yes. But it was the kind of yes that comes too late, after the damage is already done. After she told me everything, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there and let the air settle between us like fog. I didn't know what I was supposed to feel. Anger? Betrayal? Disgust? No emotion felt big enough. I went back to my room and locked the door. My phone buzzed twice, messages from my mom. I didn't read them. I just lay on my bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about every Sunday she left for her volunteer work. Every one of my birthdays she cut short. Every late arrival at my school play or missed volleyball game. I used to make excuses for her. Now I knew she was just down the street, being somebody else's mom. The next day, I skipped school and went to stay with my dad. My parents divorced when I was 9. It wasn't a nasty breakup. No custody battle. No screaming matches. Just a slow, quiet fading. I always thought they'd just grown apart. But now I wasn't so sure. He was surprised to see me, but didn't ask questions. He just made me tea and let me sit at his kitchen table in silence. I finally told him everything. Bella, Dr. Reeves, the photos, the Sunday's box. I watched his expression shift from confusion to resignation. Like he didn't just find out. Like maybe he already knew. And that's when it hit me. He wasn't surprised. Not really. He let me finish talking, waited until my voice cracked, and then he said, I always suspected. He told me the nights she came home late. The phone calls she always took in the bathroom. The weird gaps in her stories. He said he tried confronting her once, just once. She denied it, of course. But it was enough for him to quietly step back. He said he stayed married for me. Because he didn't want me growing up in a mess. But when I turned 9, and things didn't get better, he left. He didn't want to drag me through the ugliness of it all. So he just gave up. I didn't know what hurt more, that she lied for so long, or that he let her. That night, I slept on his couch. In the morning, I packed a bag. I wasn't going home. Not yet. I stayed at my dad's place for the rest of the week. It was quiet, which was what I needed. He didn't push me to talk again after that first conversation. He just let me exist, made pancakes in the morning, handed me the remote without asking questions, and gave me space. It was the first time in years I didn't feel like I was holding my breath inside my own house. But everything changed that Saturday. I went out to grab coffee from a place near his apartment. I had headphones in, hoodie up, sunglasses on, classic don't talk to me mode. I just wanted caffeine and maybe some sunlight. But as I stepped out of the cafe, balancing my cup and a muffin, I heard someone call out a name. Not mine. Bella. I turned instinctively. And there she was. Exactly like her photos. Ponytail. Backpack slung over one shoulder. Same walk as mine, even the same nervous smile when she looked back at whoever had called her. She was with friends, laughing. Clueless. She walked right past me. And she had my face. We locked eyes for less than a second. I don't think she recognized me. Why would she? To her, I was just some stranger in oversized sunglasses. But to me, it felt like looking in a warped mirror. I froze. I didn't even breathe until she turned the corner and disappeared. And in that moment, I realized something I hadn't let myself feel until now. It wasn't her fault. None of this was. She didn't ask for any of it. Just like I didn't. She probably didn't even know I existed, or maybe she did, and thought she was the secret. And yet, here we were. Two lives built around the same lie. Two girls who shared the same smile, the same hair, the same half of a mother who'd only ever given us pieces of herself. I didn't follow her. I didn't say anything. I just stood there, holding my coffee, my fingers shaking. Because I knew, one way or another, we'd have to meet again. But next time, it wouldn't be accidental. After that run-in, I couldn't stop thinking about Bella. Every time I looked in the mirror, I saw pieces of her. My reflection no longer felt like mine, it was shared. Half me, half her. Half lies. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept staring at her profile again, reading old birthday messages and captioned selfies, trying to decode whether she knew. Whether she'd ever suspected. And before I could stop myself, I did something I knew I shouldn't have. I made a burner account. No real name. No photos. Just something anonymous enough to not give me away. And I messaged her. Not with a long paragraph or a big reveal. Just one sentence. Has your mom ever mentioned a girl named June? That was it. My name. A simple test. She didn't answer right away. Hours passed. I left my phone on the charger and tried to convince myself to delete the message before she saw it. But I didn't. When I checked in the morning, there was a reply. No, who's that? I stared at it for a long time. Somehow, it was worse than a yes. Because now I knew for sure. She didn't know about me. My mom had given her the version of herself she'd never offered me. A full-time mother. Birthday parties. Sunday mornings. School fundraisers. All the things I thought she never had time for, she just gave them to someone else. And Bella? She was innocent. She was happy. She was living the life I was supposed to have. I wanted to tell her everything. I wanted to throw the truth at her and see what happened. But I couldn't. Because if I shattered her life the way mine had been shattered, what did that make me? So I just replied. Sorry. Wrong person. And I blocked the account. But the damage was already done. Not to her. To me. Because now I knew just how deep the lie went. And there was no way to unknow it. The next weekend, my mom showed up at my dad's doorstep. No warning. No texts. Just a knock. And there she was, standing on the porch like she hadn't detonated my entire reality days earlier. She looked smaller somehow. Like she'd been living inside guilt for a long time and it had finally started to shrink her. She asked to talk. Said she was ready to answer everything. I didn't want to let her in. But I did. We sat in the living room. My dad stayed in the kitchen, deliberately out of earshot, like he didn't want to hear any more of the truth than he already knew. My mom started talking. Quietly. Like she was afraid the walls might repeat her words. She told me she never planned for it to go this far. That when she first started seeing Dr. Reeves again, it was supposed to be closure. That she'd thought she could help raise Bella without crossing boundaries. I asked her if she loved him. She didn't answer. So I asked if she loved me. She said yes, but it felt automatic. Practiced. Like something she'd rehearsed in case this moment ever came. Then she said the one thing I didn't expect. She told me she had a photo of us. All three of us, Amy, her, and Bella. Together. It was from when I was a toddler. A random park visit, she called it. A one-time thing, before things got complicated. Before secrets turned into strategies. I didn't believe her. So she pulled out her phone, scrolled, stopped, and handed it to me. It was real. Me, maybe 3 years old, in overalls. My mom holding me on one hip, and beside her, Bella. A baby in a stroller. And Dr. Reeves, slightly out of frame. It was like looking at a dream I didn't know I'd forgotten. She said she kept the original at Bella's house, on their mantel. And that broke me. Because while I'd grown up thinking our little family was complete, she had a whole other version displayed 2 streets away. On a shelf. For them. After she left that day, I didn't speak to her for over a month. No texts, no calls. I didn't go home. My dad didn't pressure me. He just gave me space and let me process the fact that my entire life had been carefully, quietly edited. But I kept thinking about the photo. The one on their mantel. Displayed like a trophy from a parallel universe, one where I wasn't the forgotten child. I became obsessed with the idea of seeing it for myself. So one morning, without telling anyone, I walked to Bella's street. I stood across from her house and stared at the front door. I knew I shouldn't knock. I had no idea what I'd say. But something in me needed closure. And then, like fate had a cruel sense of timing, Bella opened the front door. She was wearing pajamas and holding a half-eaten banana. She looked sleepy, barefoot, and completely unguarded. Behind her, I saw the living room. And on the wall above the fireplace, the photo. My photo. Us. I ducked out of sight before she could notice me. My heart was hammering so loud I could hear it in my ears. I stood there for a long time. And then I walked away. Not because I didn't want answers, but because I already had them. The truth was sitting in that frame, staring back at me from a life I'd never been invited into. I could have knocked, introduced myself, blown everything up. But I didn't want to be the storm that shattered her world, just because someone else had shattered mine. Somehow, that made me feel stronger. That night, I packed my things. Moved in with a friend across town. Started job hunting. Made plans to take a gap semester and figure myself out. I wasn't sure where I was going, but at least I knew what I was walking away from. As for my mom, she still messages me. I haven't responded. Maybe one day I'll meet Bella for real. Maybe we'll talk. Maybe we'll share a laugh at how twisted all of this is. Or maybe, we'll stay strangers with matching eyes. But right now, I'm learning how to build a life from the pieces of someone else's lie. And for the first time in a long time, it finally feels like mine.